Good morning, my dear facilitators, the HR consultants present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We converged as a result of an answer to a question, a solution to a national concern. The staggering figure of the unemployed workforce in Nigeria, despite very active and rewarding measures by the government, was a large cause of worry, and I decided to do a root cause analysis. Two conclusions were reached. The workforce population far outweighs the open slots in the workplace, which simply means more businesses need to be created to mop up the available slots. The other conclusion was that 90% of the slots available can't find the right candidates. I reiterate, can't find the right candidates with the right skill set. I didn't say with the right degrees, I said with the right skill set to occupy them. The big question then arose: how do we bridge the workforce gap? How do we identify and develop square pegs and fit them in square holes? The answer to these questions gave birth to the Career Lane Initiative, just like you've heard my coordinator say. Its objectives are helping the Nigerian youth chart a career path while still in the tertiary institution, offering professional mentorship access to the working population. For these 2 days, you'll be having a couple of facilitators up here. These are men and women that have a track record of success in their careers and are passionate about the Nigerian youth and are willing to give that lift up. Partnering with organizations to offer a 12-week job internship to undergraduates and job offers to graduates, especially through our portal. Updating the Nigerian youth on global trends in career building. You need to be able to compete globally. We live in an e-world. It's not enough that you are a champion from IFE. It's not enough that you are a champion from Unilag. It's enough that you are a champion worldwide. Exposing the Nigerian youth to what it takes to be relevant in today's workplace environment by encouraging personal development. In this economy, 95 to 96%, and this morning I speak authoritatively, I speak with facts and figures, 95 to 96% fall between the small and medium-sized businesses. And these small and medium-sized businesses might not have the wherewithal to give you the kind of personal development that you need. The multinational corporations might be able to afford that. And so it is in your onus to develop yourself and probably not wait for any training from the organization you're being employed in. In our analysis, we identified that one of the causes of the workplace gap we're trying to address can be observed in some of the courses that we still study today. Courses like mass communication, which is still being taught conventionally, whereas we should be incorporating the boundless opportunities presented by e-communication. We all can be presenters, we all can be broadcasters, but you all can have a blog where your passion is well expressed, where you're imparting the society, and where also it is giving you commercial dividends, where also it can be made viable. I am not sure if Linda Ikeji is a mass communication graduate, but today she has a blog that you cannot deny knowing, and she has made so much returns from it. Also, a course like banking and finance hasn't expanded its curriculum to include today's ferocious banking procedures suitable to today's customer. Over 30,000 people were relieved of their duties in the banks just because the ATM was introduced. and many other procedures that have been introduced have seen people laid off their jobs. What is this saying? There is a big gap between the curriculum and what is out there in the workplace. However, it might not be within your locus of control to do anything about the curriculum, but it is within your control to get the necessary skill sets, the necessary expertise to feed in today's business. This is to mention a few. I cited these examples for you to know that what you receive from the curriculum you were passed through is not sufficient to make you employable. Therefore, responsibility thinking has it that you must personally engage and commit to self-development. This view gave birth to the theme of this two-day capacity development event, which is Final Class 2014. The resources that will serve these objectives will be accessed through the Career Lane blog, www.careerlanenigeria.wordpress.com, which is already active, but will be uploaded to accommodate these concerns. This upload will be flagged off by October 1, 2014. Bringing us back to the present, for every participant in this room, these 2 days will see you asking the following questions. Where am I now? Where do I want to go? How can I get there? Who can help? Permit me to say this morning, Career Lane can. Most heartedly, I welcome you to this impactful event themed Final Class 2014. And so this morning, without wasting further time, I'd like to welcome the first facilitator for the day. He is the founding managing director in Bivent Consulting. He's an employer of labor, a serial entrepreneur, a graduate of chemical engineering, and many more he has done, especially as regards organizational development and business transformation. He's an alumnus of the Institute of National Transformation. Please join me this morning with a hearty clap as I welcome to the podium Olumide Omojuyigbe.
Let me start by saying that finding a job is one thing. Finding a career path that allows you to live a fulfilling life and execute your life with passion and leave a legacy and build a life of significance is another thing entirely. There are a lot of people today who are in jobs, but who are dying on the inside. I remember about 10 years ago, I gave a ride to a lady friend of mine who was a banker. At that time, she had risen to middle management. And she was telling me, and using her own words, I need to get a life. I am dying. She still had that job. And she's risen, up the ranks. She still doesn't have a life, and she's still dying. Of course, she has some money, she has some toys to show for that life of frustration. So there's a concept out there called the work-life balance that I don't believe in. People try to juggle their life and their work. They try to find time for their life because most of their time is taken up in their jobs. What I rather believe in is work-life integration, where your work is your life and your life is your work. Because you cannot compartmentalize yourself as a human being for too long. If you do it, you create stresses within yourself and you will have no joy. That's not the way anyone should live. If you look around you, there's a lot of pain out there. It's so important that you understand this opening program very well. You get a grasp of it. Because there's no point for you to eat your food without condiments. You can have a bowl of rice and it fills your stomach, but it's not salty. It's like you're just sticking in some chaff. You're filled, but you're not satisfied. That's the way a job is when it does not connect with your personality and what you are designed to be. I want you to write this statement down. It's the first statement I really want you to think about. I'm going to expatiate on it as we go on. Your identity is your destiny. Your identity is your destiny. Before we get into the meat of what I want to share with you, I want you to look up and see the voices of many people that you find around you. Some are saying, I'm stuck in a rut. I have no life. I am burned out and exhausted. Some are saying, I feel empty inside. My life lacks meaning. Something is missing. I don't know what it is. Some say, I just live from day to day, just barely earning a living. I'm frustrated and discouraged. Some are saying, maybe I just don't have what it takes. A lot of people who are trying to move forward in life, but because they are not living, or they are not working, or they are not moving in the direction in which they are gifted and talented, they think they are failures. They think they don't have what it takes. And they are saying, I've tried all I could, but I can't change things. Many are saying, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I wish everything can just end. Some people are suicidal. As a counselor and someone who works with helping people, people come to me suicidal, and you think it's some serious problems they have in their lives. But it's not some serious marital problems. It's job-related stresses. So, as we converge in this auditorium today and tomorrow, and as you get a lot of instructions on how to get your dream job, on how to build winning resumes, and how to tailor everything you need to do to get yourself engaged out there, you need to have the things I'm going to be sharing with you today inside your heart, so that you don't have to separate your work from your life. You can have work-life integration, and you can live a life of joy, a life of fulfillment, a life of passion, which, by the way, is going to be essential for you if you're going to be successful. Before I get into it, I want you to do something for me. I need you to turn to a partner beside you. Let's do that quickly. Make sure you have somebody, because you're going to engage in a short discussion. You might have to turn to the back to find someone if there is a odd number of people on your row. Does everyone have a partner? All right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to tell your partner your career path right now, the career path you're on. If you're a student, that's most likely the course you're studying. If you're already out of school, the career path you have chosen for yourself right now, discuss it with your partner and tell them why you chose that path. Can we do that in 5 minutes? Go ahead. Make sure you talk to someone. Make sure you understand what your partner is saying. What career path are you on right now, and why did you choose that path? Are you getting some interesting facts out there? All right, you have 1 more minute. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Did you get some interesting feedbacks? 20 years ago when I was in school, if I had been in a final class and I was asked to have that conversation, at that time I was studying chemical engineering. This is what I would have said to my partner. I would have said 6 years ago, or no, 4 years ago, I was in SS1. SS1 had just started. It was our first week in school. We've not been put into classes. We had been told, however, that there are science classes, there are commercial classes, and there are arts classes. And of course, my teacher told me, you ought to do science. And so I didn't want to do science. My dad was an entrepreneur. At that time in his life, he had a lot of money. He used to travel a lot. I was fascinated by that. And so I made up my mind I was going to do chemical engineering. I was going to study business administration. I was 14 years old. One day I was going to school that first week. I stood at a bus stop. I can take you to the very spot in Ikeja. My clothes were clean. I was looking good. And this older, tall, very slender man wearing a white shirt and a black jacket stood beside me as we both waited for the bus. This is what I would have been saying, you know. And he asked me, and then he started with me on a conversation, and we were talking. And after a while, he said, you sound very nice. You sound very confident. What do you want to study when you get into the university? Without blinking an eyelid, I told him business administration. Then he looked down at me. He was quite tall, with a funny eye, looking incredulous. And he said to me, why do you want to study such a cheap course? You sound brilliant. You sound smart. Why don't you do medicine? Why don't you do chemical engineering? Why don't you do mechanical engineering? And ladies and gentlemen, right there at a bus stop, talking with a stranger, I don't know his name. In 5 minutes, the course of my life was altered. Because I left that place, cheap course. I don't want to be poor. I want to be rich. The whole essence of studying business administration is to make a lot of money. So why would I? And then I decided to do sciences. And I went through the list of courses that were available. There was medicine. The problem was I couldn't draw a circle with my finger. With a compass. I couldn't draw anything. I felt medicine, no way, because I couldn't draw the amoebas and all those stuff. And then I decided to do chemical engineering. And afterwards, I spent 5 years of hell doing something I had no interest in whatsoever. I've been out of school now 19 years. I have not practiced chemical engineering for 2 minutes. It was a relief to get out of that place. I was so interested in economics. I was so interested in some of those business programs that I will leave my classes and go and sit in their class. And that started even when I was in the university. When I was in secondary school. We will have physics class. I will not be in physics class. I will go and sit in government class. I will go and sit in commerce class. I had such an affinity for commerce, such an affinity for business management, for business studies. And I say this not because I approve of it. This was my past life, you know. When I left secondary school, even as a science student, I was writing GC for people in commercial class. Having never studied it, and I never failed once. It was natural. It was just a part of me. It was what I was born to do. Today I don't work, I just live. Because the work that I do, the life that I live, are together, they are the same. Talking about business, talking about transforming societies. This is who I am. And that's what I want to help you get today. Because there's so much pain out there. Those voices that I read to you at the beginning, some of them are not necessarily poor. Some of them are rich. Some of them you know. Some of them are your lecturers. Some of them are your parents. Their lives is full of regrets. Their lives is shallow. There's a lot of pain there. My remarks today, my presentation to you today is to help you avoid that pain. I want to read a quote to you from Robert Greene. I've changed it a little bit. If you can put it up for me. It says, you possess an inner force that seeks to guide you towards your life's task. What you are meant to accomplish in the time you have to live. your vocation. The first move toward a life of power and fulfillment is inward. Learning who you are, really, and reconnecting with that innate force. Knowing it with clarity, you will find your way to the proper path, and everything else will fall into place. It's never too late to start this process. For those of you who are like me, who maybe studied the wrong things in school, or maybe right now you're in the wrong program in school, it's never too late to start this process. And I'm hoping that some of the things, I'm going to give you 5 strategies at the end of my talk, will help you redirect yourself. The word education is gotten from the root word educe. Educe means to draw out. Like when you put a bowl or a cup into a bowl and you bring out something, or when you like when you bring out water from the well. That's what it means to educe. It's from the same root word, the word elicit is from. To elicit is to bring forth something. So the word education, listen to this carefully, assumes that there is something inside of you that is innate, that is intrinsic. That there's something inside of you that you already have. Education is not as much as putting something in you, but as much as bringing something out of you. That thing that is out of you are your natural talents, your natural inclinations, your natural capacities, which is delivered with you the day you were born. So true education, I want you to write this down. True education begins with self-discovery. Everything that you have done as far as educating yourself is concerned, that is not tied to who you are as an original person, is mal-education. For to educate someone is to first identify its potentials, and then to bring forth or build out or develop those potentials such that it becomes something that is valuable. Studying history, all the great men of the world had some kind of destiny, a sense of destiny. And I want you to understand it today that you also need to start moving towards a career path, feeling a sense of destiny, a sense that this is what I was born to do. This is my calling. The word calling and the word vocation used to be spiritual words, religious words. So you have a man that is called to be a pastor, called to be a reverend. And that's where the word vocation came from. But the word vocation today and the word calling has gone beyond the walls of a church or a parish. Every human being has a calling. And until you find that calling and begin to move in that direction, you are not alive. That life you're living is somebody else's life. And at the end of the day, you will not be happy. At the end of the day, you will be frustrated. And at the end of the day, you are not going to have done the best you can do with your life. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French general, always talked about sensing a star rise each time he made the right move. Socrates and Goethe both felt that there was a spirit living in them that guided them to their destiny. And Albert Einstein will always talk about an inner voice that shaped his speculations. And that kind of makes it look like this thing is a mystical thing, that those who are called hear a voice from heaven. But it's not true. I want to demystify that sense of destiny and use some examples in biology to help you understand it. But the first one I want you to understand, and I really want you to get this, is that you have a destined outcome written into your life. You have a destined outcome written into your life. You are not a creature of chance, and your life is not to be lived by conjectures. You have a destined outcome written into your life. And I'm not talking religiously. I'm not talking spiritually. I'm talking nature. If you are a natural human being, you have a destined outcome written into your life. And to fulfill your career, your primary task, to live a fulfilling life, your primary task is to find that destined outcome and to live it. So the rest of my talk today will be giving you some guidelines, and this is important, to help you find that destined outcome. When your passions are released, when your talents are utilized, when your life is purposeful and strong. But all I can give you today are guidelines. You know why? The very nature of destiny is that it is personal. It's never the same for two people. And so how you find it is also going to be personal, because it's part of your story. It's part of your destined outcome. So for some people here today, even while I'm speaking, they're going to get a sense of it and begin to intuit that this is my destined outcome. For some, it might be tomorrow. For some, it might be sometime later this year. For some, you will seemingly stumble into it. It will not be something you strategically thought about. It will not be something you intentionally devise, even though everyone must seek to intentionally create it. All right. Now, this is the essence of my talk today. It's very simple. It's not complicated at all. Every human being is born with primal inclinations. I want you to write down that phrase. Primal inclinations. It is a combination of your passion and your talents and your proclivities, the things you naturally gravitate towards. But your primal inclinations, or your primal energies, like I call them sometimes, is something you can only identify when you're very young. I'll tell you why in a short while. But I need you to know that you are a unique phenomenon on planet Earth. Your exact genetic makeup has never been repeated, and it will never be repeated. And such is the calling and the vocation that should guide whatever career path that you take. The Renaissance artist Leonardo da Vinci, for him it was a fascination with nature. I was reading some biographies, biographies of his recently, and was told that he was born out of wedlock. Very interesting. And because he was born out of wedlock, he had no right to attend school. So whilst all his stepbrothers went to school, he had to stay at home. And so he would spend his time just walking around gardens, walking around the forest. And then he became fascinated with flowers. He became fascinated with all that is nature. And something inside of him began to seek how to represent it in drawings. His father, who was a very rich man, had a lot of paper. Paper was a premium thing at that time. But because his father was very rich, he had a lot of paper. So he would go into his father's office, take out some papers, and go into the forest, and all he wanted to do was draw. He was only 7 years old. Albert Einstein, at the age of 4, was given a compass by his father. And as he held that compass, and he realized that when he changes direction, the needle in the compass will move. And as a 4-year-old, he began to think about the fact that there is a force in the universe that is moving the needle on my compass. And from that moment, he became fascinated with the very idea that there are unseen forces in the universe. And throughout his life, he was focused and dedicated to finding forces. Electromagnetism, force field theories, electricity, everything came out of that primal inclination. If you are going to stand out, if you're going to live a life of glory, I like to call it, if you're going to live a life where your life becomes significant, it is crucial, absolutely important, that you find that primal inclination. But here is the problem. Every one of us sitting here today, including myself, we were born with this primary inclination. I want you to think about your primary inclinations like a seed that was put in you when you were born. In that seed is a DNA, a program, a code that defines how the organism develops. When you see a seed of maize, it may not be too different from the seeds of other plants. But the difference in the final product is so clear over time. What makes that difference happen? What makes sure that a seed of maize grows up into a maize plant and not a tuber of yam? It is the coding in the cells of that maize plant, which is called DNA. It is true for you naturally, physically, physiologically. Some of you, if you look at yourself, you know you look like your mom, you look like your dad. It's because you carry their DNA. As it is for you in your genetic makeup, so it is in your life's work. Inside your soul is written a DNA of inclination, of ideas, of energies, of talents, of passions. And here is the problem. By the time most of us are adults, we have either been nurtured or denatured. For a lot of us sitting here, part of the DNA of our souls, which is supposed to inform our development, which is supposed to inform who we eventually become, for some people, all of that DNA, for some, just a little portion, has either been denatured or deformed. If you're going to find your career path, the first thing you need to do is to go back and try and recover the denatured part of you. Now, let me quickly tell you about 4 things that denature our primary energies. The first, of course, is our parents. And our parents will denature our primary energies either by neglect or by abuse. My dad never had one conversation with me about what I wanted to be when I grew up. In fact, except for that gambling man at the bus stop, no one has. I'm hoping that someday somebody will just ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because nobody else can ask me that question. It's one of the reasons why I'm passionate to help people ask that question and find answers to it. So through neglect, and for many of you, you're luckier than I am, because in these days and time, schools have career and guidance and counseling departments. We never had anything of such in my school. Nobody ever sat with me and asked me what I wanted to be. So neglect of those primary energies. When my first daughter was born, I'm so consumed with this thing. The very first day she was born, I lifted her up and said, what are your primary energies? What is this code inside of you? Because I know that my job as a parent, the most primary thing, or the second most important thing I'm going to do is to help that little girl identify those primary energies and then push her in the direction that she's supposed to go in life. I'm so consumed about this thing that I'm thinking about developing an educational system just for my kids, completely out of what they teach in school. Jokingly, I will say this. You know, all you learn in social studies for 6 years, you can learn in 2 hours as an adult. Hello? Are you following what I'm saying? All you learn in social studies in 6 years, in secondary school or primary school, you can learn reading 1 book as an adult. So I'm thinking, why should my child spend time doing social studies? If I can find those primary energies, like Leonardo da Vinci, and she spends every day of her life just honing that, sharpening that, and developing that. Because by the time to attain mastery, to become the very best in your primary energy and in the focus of your life, write this down. You need to have spent 10,000 hours practicing it. To become world class, Mrs. Zumba was talking about becoming globally relevant, becoming qualified on the global stage. For you to become world class in anything, you need to have spent 10,000 hours practicing it. To unpack that for you, before you can attain 10,000 hours of practice, it means that you have dedicated a minimum of 3 hours every day of the year for 10 years to the same cause. That's what makes an Albert Einstein. That's what makes a Leonardo da Vinci. That's what makes a Roger Federer. If you study all these great sportsmen in this world today, none of them started practicing later than 7 years old. In fact, I was reading a story of a girl who wanted to be a tennis player. She was 9 years old. She went to a tennis academy. She had the talent. And they asked her, have you been practicing before? She said no. They said it was too late for her to start at 9. Because by the time she spends 10 years, she will be 19. And at that time, world champions are already made. This is the world you're living in. This is why this is so important for you to find that primary energy. And so that the rest of your life you will be focused on developing it. So sometimes our parents neglect to identify, and our teachers also neglect to identify those primary energies. And we have spent so many years wasting our life on things that do not involve our primary energy. Again, parents can abuse and destroy and denature those primary energies by forcing you into doing careers that you do not have passion for. Speaking with a young lady recently, helping her to find her primary energies and to help her chart a career path. And she said to me, all I want to do is music. I sing in the night, I sing in the morning, and it was obvious that she had the talent. So I asked her, what are you studying in school? Guess what she said? Biochemistry. And I said to her, why are you doing biochemistry? And she said, my dad will have nothing but science. That's an abuse. Abuse is not only when you speak evil words, when you rape people, when you force people into a mold that they are not in naturally, you have abused them. So our parents are the first people who denature us. Then our teachers, of course, denature us. Then society denatures us. And then, of course, economic realities denature us. How many of you would say that when I had to do that short exercise, your father said, I'm doing this thing because it will make me some money? And I see your hand. God will forgive them if you're lying. Because the truth is that for most people today, the number one thing that they consider in choosing a career path is how much money they will make. And I'm going to show you at the end of this talk that that is actually counterproductive. Because every decision, listen to this, every decision you make from today and every decision you have made before today has either helped to nurture your primary energies or it has helped to denature it. So let me give you the 5 strategies for finding your destined career path. Number 1 is to reconnect with your primary inclinations. You have to go back to when you were a child. What were the things you used to love? What were the things you were good at? What were the things you were fascinated with? I was fascinated with business. I started my first business when I was 11 years old. A driver used to take us to school. And there was a place where we used to buy puff, they call it. But it's donut, you know. And I would spend a portion of my money to buy that dough. And because I used to buy for my sisters, we were 3, my 2 elder sisters and myself. I was the smallest, you see. So each one of them will give me their 50 kobo, I think, to go and buy the 5 puff. So the first business idea that came to me was that if you give me money, I'll buy the puff for you tomorrow. So I began to buy 20 puffs. And I realized that the more I bought, the more feces the woman would put. And the first thing that came to me is that save your money. I didn't have to buy the 5 puffs myself. I was saving my own money. All the feces was enough for me to feed them. It was my first entrepreneurial venture. And then it became so large that the feces was too much for me to eat. I would eat some of the feces and sell some of the feces. And I was making a lot of money until the woman stopped doing the business. But that was fascinating for me. The other thing that was fascinating for me was books, reading novels. I remember one big novel that I read non-stop for 48 hours. What were your primary inclinations? What were the things that you were drawn to as a young person? In the words of the ancient Greek poet, you become who you are by learning who you are. And I want you to write that down. You become who you are by learning who you are. There is a construction to your personality. There is a construction to your individuality. Identity is destiny, like I said earlier. Go back to that time when there was no voices of pressure. Go back to that time when you didn't have to do something because you needed to survive. This thing is so important that you find those natural energies. Because I tell you something, in this economy that we're living in, it's so tough to succeed out there that the work you need to do is about 4 or 5 times what our parents did. Without passion, without something that motivates you from the depths of your soul, that brings forth creativity, you cannot get ahead. You can only live in a rut. The second strategy, examine the career path you have chosen or about to choose. Because you have to choose a career path or a vocation that is suited to your individuality and the force of destiny that is in you. The answer you gave to your partner at the beginning of this talk, you need to examine. Does this tap into my deepest potentials? Does this connect with my passion? Does this take advantage of the things I do naturally? For some of us, it is a capacity for understanding numbers. For some of us, it is a capacity with language. For some of us, it is different capacities. It is a capacity with people. I read the story of a young girl who was doing so poorly in class. She was about 7 years old. Because this is a problem with the educational system of today. At the beginning of life, they only grade you on things that has to do with cognitive intelligence, that has to do with numbers. Nobody checks whether you are good with people. Nobody checks whether you are good with patterns. They only check whether you are good at addition or subtraction. And this is how they denature us. If you're not good with those things, especially when you're young, they label you that you are a poor student. And they put in you a lack of self-confidence, so that you begin to fulfill the prophecy that you are a poor student. But do you know that when you begin to work in a corporation, or when you begin to do business, your technical skills begin to account for only 30% of your performance. What accounts for 70% of your performance are what? People skills. It's called emotional intelligence. There was this 7-year-old girl who was so naturally gifted with people that as a 7-year-old girl, one of the worst in class because she could not do numbers right. Every fight in the class, she was the one that settles it. She had the wisdom of an adult when it comes to bringing people together. Whenever it's playtime, everybody gathers around her. She was the center of activity in the class. Then a teacher recognized that this was a gift, this was a talent, and they began to nurture it. One of the ways parents denature us and teachers denature us is to ridicule our passions. A young man was talking to me about how he had a passion for music as a young child. And the father was a military general who was a military officer, felt that was a sissy thing. How many of you guys will say your parents ridiculed your passion for soccer, at least? Maybe you will have been J.J. Okocha. But as simple as that was, as simple as that is, There are a lot of young people who were talented physically, whose gifting was in the athletics department. But because those things were not supposedly intellectual, they were ridiculed. You have to go back because you have to start defining a career path that taps into your primary energies. Number 3, and this I'm getting into some of the specifics now. Once you've found your primary energies and you begin to work to develop a career path that suits those primary energies, a key strategy is to develop like a T. A key strategy is to develop like a T. Sir, can you just come up quickly? Just come up quickly. Yes, please. This is so important. A T stands, just run up quickly. This is the third strategy in finding a career path that taps into your primary energies. If you just spread your hands. A T has wide span, and then it has a deep backbone or a deep pillar. This is how you must develop yourself, starting from today. First, you must choose a general direction that focuses, that uses your primary energies. You find a general direction. If you are someone that loves music, you know that music is a general direction. You want to begin to develop yourself generally about music. If it is about performing, for example, you don't want to restrict yourself, and another thing I know is to take this to 40-year-old and 55-year-old is maybe too late, but still, you get to understand it. You don't want to restrict yourself to a particular kind of instrument. You want to try your hand on the piano, you want to try your hand on the violin, you want to try your hand on the flute and several things. You develop generally. Because this will be crucial to you being creative at the last stage. So you need to choose a general career path, something that is not too streamlined. Something that, such that if that industry disappears, that particular need disappears, you will have no job. You must develop as a generalist. As you do that, you will come to a point in your life and your development that you find what is called a sweet spot. Now, your career development is not going to follow a straight line. It's going to follow all kinds of twists and turns. And you must guide these twists and turns. As you go through those twists and turns, a time will come, you will find a branch in that span, that general area of career that you are focused on, which taps into your primary energies. When you find that place, you need to stop going from place to place. You need to stop there and begin to develop depth. So to develop your career as a T is to develop breadth in the general direction of your primary energies until you find your niche, until you find that place where everything just comes to life, where everything just makes sense. At that point, it's time to stop going round in circles and begin to develop mastery. The rest of your 10,000 years, at the beginning, your 10,000 hours, maybe 2 or 3, will have been spent developing breadth. The 7,000 hours remaining will be spent in developing depth. Thank you very much. So you must guide your career with this idea in focus. You must guide your career knowing that there's a general direction, but there is also a place, a niche that is just entirely yours. The first strategy is that you must avoid the false path. This is the most difficult of the strategies. You must avoid the false path. The false path is a path in life that you are attracted to for the wrong reasons. Money, fame, attention, and so on and so forth. Like some of the feedback you have gotten earlier this morning, some of us are already on the false path. I'll give you an example. If you have suffered a lot of deprivation, you grew up in a very poor background, you grew up in a very difficult economic circumstance, the tendency is that you will want to choose a career path because of money. You're trying to avoid the poverty of your young life. You're trying to get out of the difficulty of your life. Everything about your life is about money. Money. Where do I get the most money from? That's the false part. If you're someone that has suffered emotional injustices, maybe you suffered rejection, abuses from your parents, so that your soul has broken down, it's most likely that you choose a career path that offers you fame and attention. But it's a false path. Now, I noticed this in many of the so-called popular musicians and entertainers. Most of them are on the false path. The only reason why they are in that industry is because it affords them fame. When you look at the other things they do in their lives, you don't see creativity. You don't see creativity in entertainment. You just see someone who just trying to get attention. How many of you know what I'm talking about? It's a false path. You must avoid that false path. Many choose career paths because it's easy. There is a sense that you can make a lot of money, you can get ahead without having to do too much work. It's a false path. You must avoid that. Number 5 strategy is that you must be adaptable. Be ready to change. This I'm about to say to you, I've seen happen so many times. A young man graduates from school, gets a job in the town. He has a general direction that his life is about entrepreneurship, about finance, about money. This is what he's good at. So he gets into a bank. And he begins to rise in that bank. But sometimes as he grows as a banker, the primary enemies are waking. The voice of destiny begins to speak. Something begins to call him out of the banking sector to go and try his hand on entrepreneurship. Maybe there's something else that is a part of his passion. Maybe a passion for computers. Now he has understood finance. Now his passion for computer is calling him out to start a business around ICT. But here's the problem. Sometimes we become so attached to people. If you are in a mentor-protege relationship, so he goes to talk to his boss and say, this is what he's planning to do. But his boss depends on him. He's good at his job. And somehow he is convinced not to make that choice, not to make the decision. Sometimes it's his wife that talks him down on taking the plunge. You know, women are all about safety. You want to, where are we going to pay school fees? And then he talks him down. And it kills that voice of passion. It kills that voice of destiny. Many of them live to regret it. So as you grow as a teen, as you develop passion in your niche, as you develop breadth as a generalist, you have to be aware of twists and turns and be ready to adapt yourself very fast. Now, the question I get asked most of the time is this, and I'm wrapping up with this. Is this practical? Is there anybody who's already asking that question in his mind? Or this talk about finding your purpose, is it really practical? Is it not whatever you find to do, you just to be able to survive? Anybody asking that question? Right, let me give you 4 or 3 reasons why this is the most practical thing you can do in this age. Number 1 is the commoditization of skills. Skills are a commodity today. If you're in school, you know how many people are in your accounting graduation class? Maybe 200 in some schools, maybe 250 in some schools. If you put all the accountants, all the people that are going to graduate in accounting this year together, maybe you have 10,000 people. 10,000 commoditized accountants are going to be in the job market next year. Your technical skills is not going to give you an edge. Because so many people have the same skills that you do. Thousands of accountants qualify every day. Thousands of engineers qualify every day. Thousands of lawyers qualify every day. So to just do something and graduate and enter the job market will not be enough. The second reason why this is the most practical thing to do is that you now live in a global village. This is what you don't know. Anytime an advertiser puts a job opening on the internet, you went to Unilag, fantastic school. Some guy went to UN, fantastic school. They both apply for the same job. But you know that today, people are applying for jobs in Lagos who went to school in America. Now think about it. An employer gets 10 CVs, one Unilag, two from one state, from some state universities. Gets one from a guy who graduated from a university in Australia. Another one who is working in a bank on Wall Street. Guys who work on Wall Street are applying for banking jobs in Nigeria. Your technical skills is not enough because you live in a commoditized technical skill environment and you live in a global village. Now, the third reason why this is the most practical thing to do is actually an opportunity. At the same time that we live in a global village and skills have become commoditized, the world is teeming with critical problems and opportunities, which are best solved by entrepreneurs and people who have entrepreneurial thinking. Individuals and small groups who think independently, adapt quickly, and possess unique perspectives. Individualized creative skills is what commands a premium today. So if you want to navigate this jungle, this rough terrain, where skills are a commodity, people are applying for the same jobs from all over the globe, people with stronger resumes than you, the key is to find a niche problem, even within the corporations, where you have individualized skills, where you have entrepreneurial thoughts, where you work and you have the capacity to work in a corporation as if you are a professional service provider within that space. That's what commands a premium. That's what stands people out today. So if you're asking is this practical? Except you want to live a mediocre life. Except you want to become one of those voices that I said, that I read to you at the beginning. This is the most practical thing to do with your life. I'm going to put a quote up now from Stephen Covey as a roundup. And I really want you to think about it. I'm going to say a few remarks about it and then we'll go. Your goal in life, I've changed it a little bit, added some of my words. Your goal in life is to find and engage in work that taps your talent and fuels your passion. Please make a list. Talent, passion, that rises out of a great need in the world, the pains of the world, that you feel drawn by a sense of destiny to meet, the inner voice. When you find it, you will become a different person. You'll be separated from the crowd of people, from those crowd of people that I showed you at the beginning. You will attain fulfillment. But more than that, you will be able to execute your purpose passionately and make a significant contribution to the advancement of society and the world. Then you would have truly lived. So here's the conclusion of this talk. There are 4 things that you need to keep your eyes on every day of your life as a career person. Number 1 are your talents. Your talents are the things you have natural inclinations to do well. Things you do without a force. Things you do without stress. Things you improve at a fast rate. Number 2 is your passion. Your passion is that thing that causes your soul, your spirit to come alive. It is that thing that you're doing. When you do it, you feel inspired. It could be around people. You could have a passion for a group of people. You could have a passion for a particular industry. You could have passion in many different things. The third thing is the pain of the world. Now listen, to connect with your primary energies does not mean that you should be unstrategic. There are different problems in the world, and the solutions to those problems command different revenue and income and premium. If you have a passion for movies, for example, I used to say this jokingly, you're not going to get paid for watching them. Hello? You're not going to get paid for watching the movie. You're going to get paid for creating those movies. So along the direction of your talent and your passion, ask yourself, where can I make maximum impact? I want you to write that down. Where can I make maximum impact with the least resources in the shortest possible time? Maximum impact, least resource, shortest possible time. Those 3 things you have to study them along the general area of your career path. I'll give you an example. If you have a flair for selling, without skills in developing marketing strategies, you could just have a flair for selling. Sellers don't get paid much. It is those who design the strategies for sellers that are paid the higher. You have to think strategically about it. It's not enough for you to just find something you love that does not have a strategic place in the economy. You have to think strategically about it. So the first is your talent, the second is your passion. The third is the pains of the world that pays the highest premium. And then the fourth, of course, is that force of destiny that is inside of you. That primal energy that is inside of you. That says that there's a reason for my life. There's a purpose to my life. I have a calling, a vocation, something that only I can deliver. Everything else you're going to learn in these 2 days, I want you to look at it and to hear it from the screen of what I just shared with you. You don't want to get in the rut. Look around you. Too much pain. People medicating their lives away. People living a life that is not purposeful. Earning a living, but not living at all. In this economy, in these times, you have to pursue your passion. You have to elevate your talent by developing it. You have to find a strategic point in the pains of the world in which you can make an entrepreneurial difference. And you must allow the voice of destiny to guide you. If you do this, not only will you be separated from the crowd, you will be employed either by people or by yourself faster than people who don't do this. This is why this is practical. This is actually to give you an edge in the marketplace. This is actually to separate you from the crowd of people. Imagine how many people are here today. The last time, was it the Ministry of Internal Affairs was going to do recruitment. Stadia in the old nations were filled. Why? Because there are no jobs out there. Yet there are more problems out there. There are more jobs out there looking for the necessary skill set, looking for passionate individuals. As an employer of labor, I don't know if other people do it. The first thing I look for is passionate energy. You don't have passion, you don't have energy, I can't work with it. Doesn't matter how skillful you are. Except you're going to be working and nobody's going to be looking at you. Because I don't want to come into my office, I see people who wish they could be somewhere else. It drains me. It drains everybody. It affects the atmosphere. But when you work in a place, when you work in an area, when you choose a career path that you're passionate about, that connects with your talents, and that solves a strategic, I keep emphasizing that, a strategic problem. Don't be naive about this. You have to go after strategic problems. One of the strategic problems you can go after are global problems. There are certain businesses you will start today, you cannot grow it beyond Nigeria. It does not have the capacity, not just because of the lack of excellence, but because this is not a global problem. For example, selling generators. Those are localized problems. So, in defining the niche that you're going to occupy, look for global problems. Look for problems with high net worth individuals. Look for problems you can solve for corporations. And let your talents and your passions come together to solve those problems, always guided by the inner voice. I hope that with these very few words of mine, I've been able to convince you and not confuse you. That finding your passion, developing your talent, is the most practical and the strategic thing to do in this global space. All right, let me go through some of these questions. I deliberately kept the presentation short so that I can have more time for these questions. The first question was around how do you manage conflicting passions? You have interest in several things. First, as you sit here today, the different interests you have, some of them, and you need to listen carefully, some of them will be along your primary energies. Some of them are around the false path. For example, most boys growing up wanted to be soccer stars. It wasn't because they had that as a primary energy. It was because sports and competing was something every male man has a desire for. Men are competitive. Is it winning a girl, winning a job? It's all competition. You want to be better than women. Are more collaborative, you see. Instead of women competing, they will come together and share the pie. But it's true. It's true. Women are now, of course, hello. It's not 100%. You might find competitive women also, but most times women are quicker to collaborate. They would rather have one pie and share it without fight. But men, they said, let's bet who will, so somebody gets the whole thing. So you need to understand, and this is where I'm going, you need to understand where the different passions are coming from, so that you can separate between what is primary energy and what is acquired because of the social environment in which you live. Do you know how many young Nigerian people, young Nigerians want to sing now? How many of them want to act? Many of them want to be all kinds of things. But do you know that some of those people who want to sing can actually be aeronautic engineers? But what they are not exposed to, and this is very important, if you go to my village in Ekiti, I'm from Ekiti, and you go and ask the kids in the secondary school there, what do you want to be when you grow up? None of them will say they want to be a neurosurgeon. You know why? They don't know what a neurosurgeon is. They've not been exposed to it. They have no idea that something like that exists. So first is you want to determine where is this desire and passion coming from, so that you can separate between what is primal and what is acquired. Like I said, if you grew up with deprivation, money business becomes something that is always in your face. But that may not necessarily be a primary energy. That might be a reaction to the circumstances of your development. However, having said that, you can still have several passions. Let me use myself as an example. Recently, I found the pillar of my tea. I have a passion in business. I have passion in talking. My wife is tired because it's only in my marriage that I talk. The man talks more than the woman. But guess what? I talk. I'm not interested in making people laugh as much. I'm interested in imparting knowledge. So every time anything happens in the house, I begin to analyze it. Everything becomes a teaching session. Funny, I'm also a preacher. So teaching, preaching, motivation, consulting, I just put everything together. And she said to me, please, don't teach me anything today. I don't want to learn anything. Then I also have passion for society, bringing out the best in people, how we can live at the highest potentials. It used to confuse me until I found media entrepreneurship. Because as a media entrepreneur, I can talk, produce content, I can change the world using the power of the media. Media is business. I can be around people. So I found finally one bucket where all my seemingly before that time, seemingly conflicting passions come together. And it was a serendipitous moment for me. It was something, it just came to me. I was doing a radio program and I just realized that, wow, this is what I've been looking for all my life. So if you have different passions, the first thing is you want to separate the wheat from the chaff. Because some of those things are just chaff. They are not genuine in terms of the fact that they are not primal to your personality. But the ones that are primal to your personality, continue to practice and develop in all of them until you find the sweet spot where all of those things come together. All right. A guy doesn't do well in maths, does well in drawing and designing. Let me use this opportunity to teach this. Very important. There are 4 skills that every human being must learn. Hello? 4 skills every human being must learn. And for me, if I'm to design the educational curriculum of Nigeria, I'll design it around these 4 skills only. These are the only 4 things everybody will learn. The rest will be along the path of your primal passions and your primal energies. The first one is reading. Everybody must learn to read. And when I say reading, I don't just mean reading books. I mean everyone must have understanding of how to observe and gather information. You can't be successful in life without that. No matter your passion, no matter your career path, no matter your individuality. You must be able to observe. You must be able to learn. You must be able to interpret what you are seeing. Are you following that? That's the essence of comprehension in school. Because some of those things that you do in school, you don't know why you do it. To be able to read and interpret what you read. So everyone needs to do comprehension in school. The second how is writing. Everybody needs, okay, before we do writing, the second R is reflection. Everybody must learn to think. You can't succeed in life without the capacity for reflection. You gather information, you interpret what it means. If it's English, if it's music you're doing, if it's sculpting, if it is engineering, you have to be able to reflect. It is in reflection that insight comes. So pupils need to learn how to reflect. Now, I said this one is a bit controversial. It might be controversial to some of you, but I'll explain it. Everybody needs to learn to do maths. I'll explain. Maths is, for me, the simplest subject in school. And I know you will kick against that. I will explain to you. When I say maths, maybe I should use the word arithmetic. And this is what I mean. You can't succeed in life without being able to do logic. You can't succeed in life without being able to understand cause and effect, which is what mathematics is. The rest are formulas. Knowledge is information. Skill is know-how. Skill is the last part of what I define as intelligence, the ability to use information to solve problems. That is know-how. A qualification, a degree, or a certificate is an authentication of your skill. So, the problem with you being a third-class accountant, even though you are a first-class writer, is that you do not have authentication. You have nothing that authenticates, in paper form, that you have this capacity. And except you're working for yourself, if somebody is going to hire you, say, I can do this. There are 2 ways they can check it. Either they check your qualifications or they give you a test. So, 3 things I've said here. Intelligence is measured based on performance in school. But the problem is most of us are studying courses we have no passion in. So we don't have the first requirement for being intelligent in that area. And secondly, many people do not give in the diligence that is required. So when you go to get a job and you have a third class and you are an accountant, it's going to be difficult for you. But if you have other skills, then you need to go to school and get the qualifications necessary so that you can authenticate that you are good at this thing. If not, you will have to have somebody that gives you a chance to prove that you can do this thing. And that will be it will be a risk for the person. And that's why people will sometimes converse that you should do internship. A lot of young job seekers complain about the fact that people want you to have years of experience before they give you a job. And we don't like it. But from the employer's point of view, this is how employers think. If you have not done anything before, there is no guarantee you can do it. Are you following that? Anything you have not done before, there's no guarantee that you can do it. If you say you can do it, you're just giving your words. You have no track record. If I hire you, I'm taking a risk on you. So the middle line is internship. I will take a risk on you, but you too take a risk by not getting paid. And you see, and that's what most people are not willing to do. You want people to give us jobs, pay us salaries, when we have no track record. It's like I walk up to Man United tomorrow and say, Vanguard, I am in. Say, where have you played before? I say, leave that thing. I'm good. I'm good. Just sign contract, £100,000 a month. So, if I'm so convincing, do you know what they do? They give me a trial. That's the essence of going for trials. Established players don't go for trials. They send their contract to their old club. But unestablished players go for trials. That's internship. During trials, you don't get paid. So your business is to seek internship where you can prove your capacities and then you can have braggables. Okay? Someone has a passion for IT, has also a passion for broadcasting and presenting. Why does she not begin to do IT programs on TV with an entertainment flavor? I would love to learn about IT, but I find it boring. So if I find programs that have IT content, if you watch CNN now, every news they present is entertaining. There's one lady that presents sports news, Baldessara. It's like she's presenting a show, and she's just casting the news. Even those who present weather right now, they do it in an entertaining way. Because for everyone that has a passion for presentation, for broadcasting, that is one thing. Content is another thing. So you might have the skill, that is your talent, but the content will be the area in which you have passion. So you take the passionate content and use your skill, your talent for presenting, to present IT knowledge in an entertaining way. That will be somewhere where those two things can merge. The last question is, maths and science. Maths is a tool. Maths is not really a domain of knowledge as such. So maths and science go together very well. Do you understand that? Maths and writing. IT. Writing. Oh, those are the conflicting passions. Go and start writing maths textbooks now. That was a joke. What I need you to see is that your passion for maths is an underlying skill. Maths is a tool. It's a capacity for thinking logically. You can actually apply it in every area. If you're good at maths, it can help you become a better businessman. If you're good at maths, it can help you become a better scientist. If you're good at maths, it can help you become a better anything. It can also help you become a better writer. I'm not quite sure about how it will help you become a better writer, but maths will always help you in your capacity for telling stories even. The last question I'm going to be dealing with is the issue of porn. Now, you need to let your friend know that there's a big difference between having a desire to help people overcome their sexual problems in marriage and watching porn. If he's watching porn, he's going to destroy himself. As a young man, he's going to, and I don't want to get into some moral issues, even though I don't have a problem getting into it. As a single person, you do yourself a lot of disservice. You destroy your marriage ahead of time by watching porn. Your capacity for satisfaction sexually reduces, and the quality of your marriage will reduce. There is no good thing in porn. Are you following, sir? There is nothing good in porn. That passion is a destructive passion. He needs to destroy it before he destroys it. If he has a desire to help people with sexual problems in marriages, which I don't understand how he's going to do it since he's not married. But assuming he wants to do it, there are clean literature. There are clean sites that people can go to and learn about those things. So advise him to stick to those clean ones, and he should stop spreading pornography. It will destroy himself. It will destroy the people he is referring to those sites. If he wants to do what you said, which is build a web, does that answer your question? Well, it was a good question. All right, everybody, let's put our hands together for ourselves.